Nobody's texting war plans. Nobody's texting war plans. I know exactly what I'm doing, exactly what we're directing.
Well, Jeffrey, let's get you to respond, if we could, to in real time. The White House Press Secretary Karen Leavitt just posted. She took a screenshot of the Atlantic headline, which reads, I will say again for the viewers, here are the attack plans that Trump advisors shared on Signal. She writes this: the Atlantic has conceded these were not, quote, war plans. The entire story was another hoax written by a Trump hater, yada, yada. So, Jeffrey, does this seem like they're parsing the difference between a war plan and an attack plan?
I don't even know what that means. I mean, the plain language in the text is, well, yeah, what are they arguing? That an attack is different than a war? They put operational details of a forthcoming attack on a terrorist organization into Signal, into a Signal chat that included phone numbers that they didn't recognize. I don't even understand what that means. They're talking about attacking and killing terrorists using various weapon systems. So she's just playing some sort of weird semantic game. I don't understand.
Pete Hegseth and other idiots in Trump's cabinet texted their secret military strike on Yemen to a journalist.
That's f***ing not good.
That's how Jeffrey Goldberg, editor-in-chief of The Atlantic, found out that we were about to bomb Yemen before it actually happened. As Goldberg states in his article, on Tuesday, March 11th, I received a connection request on Signal from a user identified as Michael Waltz. Signal is an open-source encrypted messaging app popular with journalists, activists, and people who want their communications to stay private, not people who are planning military strikes. And in response to these texts being leaked, Mike Waltz tweeted, no locations, no sources and methods, no war plans. Except these texts do show that they talked about war plans.
How dumb are you? Is there anything in there?
Waltz also tried to spin a conspiracy theory that he was hacked.
I don't mean to be pedantic here, but how did the number
Have you ever had somebody's contact that shows their name and then you have somebody else's number there?
I never make those mistakes.
Right? You got somebody else's number on someone else's contact. So of course I didn't see this loser in the group. It looked like someone else. Now, whether he did it deliberately or it happened in some other technical mean is something we're trying to figure out.
Except, as you can see right here, Mike Waltz added Jeffrey Goldberg to the Signal group.
Awkward.
I just need to say it again for the people in the back. This idiot planned a military operation over a group chat. And then he left a fucking journalist in it. That isn't a fluke. Look, it's simple. Hegseth is unqualified. He is not someone who should be in charge of war planning. I mean, this guy can't even conduct a basic security protocol. He couldn't be bothered to use a secure communications channel. He used Signal like he was texting fantasy football trades. And when Trump was asked about it, he gave the same answer he always gives.
I don't know anything about it. I'm not a big fan of The Atlantic. To me, it's a magazine that's going out of business. I think it's not much of a magazine, but I know nothing about it. You're saying that they had what?
They were using Signal to coordinate on sensitive materials and
having to do with what? Having to do with what? What were they talking about?
With the Houthis.
The Houthis? You mean the attack on the Houthis?
Right.
Well, it couldn't have been very effective because the attack was very effective. I can tell you that. I don't know anything about it. You're telling me about it for the first time.
Whenever there's a problem, Trump always claims that he doesn't know.
So I don't know him. Never heard of him.
I don't know him.
I don't know him.
I don't know him very well. I have not spoken to him much. This is not a man I know well.
I don't even know him. I don't know him at all. Don't know what he's about. Don't know where he comes from.
But I gotta say, for a guy who claims to be a
very stable genius,
it's incredible how much is supposedly happening in our government that Donald Trump has no idea about. So either Trump is completely clueless about what's going on in his own administration, or he's lying.
¿Por qué no las dos?
And we know he's lying because Goldberg told the White House what he knew before that press conference.
The specific time of a future attack, specific targets, including human targets, meant to be killed in that attack, weapon systems, even weather reports, that the government is I don't know why Hegseth was sharing it with everybody. I mean, the precise detail, and then a long section on sequencing. This is going to happen, then that is going to happen. After that happens, this happens, then that happens, and then we go and find out if it worked.
But even if Trump did find out about this story at the same time that you and I did, which is almost impossible, he's now saying this a day after it came out.
National security was put at risk, Mr. President, of senior officials using Signal.
Do I plan to ban who?
The use of Signal to communicate from senior officials.
Well, I don't know I don't know anything about Signal. I wasn't involved in this, but I just heard about it. And I hear it's used by a lot of groups. It's used by the media a lot. It's used by a lot of the military, and I think successfully. But sometimes somebody can get onto those things. That's one of the prices you pay when you're not sitting in the Situation Room with no phones on, which is always the best, frankly.
What the hell is he talking about?
And after the operation was complete, they were celebrating in the Signal app with emojis. Vice President J.D. Vance sent excellent. National Security Advisor Mike Waltz sent punch emoji, American flag emoji, fire emoji. Secretary of State Marco Rubio sent good job, Pete, and your team. And then Waltz came back in to say the team in MAL did a good job as well. MAL isn't some secret ops unit, that's Mar-a-Lago, as in Trump's country club. That's where Trump was watching this attack from. His golf resort. Because of course he was. He spent every weekend of his second term golfing. We went from Obama and his national security team in the Situation Room to Trump in a red MAGA hat that he signed himself, which, by the way, is weird on its own, stretched out Trump golf shirt, holding up his pants like he's trying not to drop his last mozzarella stick, watching live war footage like it's Sunday Night Football. This is the sad reality of the Trump administration's military leadership. Not a situation room, not a secure facility, not even basic discretion. Just a Signal group chat, an emoji party, and a former reality TV host live streaming war updates from a golf resort. And now Pete Hegseth is freaking out trying to do damage control.
Against the Houthis in Yemen was shared with a journalist in the Atlantic, and were those details classified?
You're talking about a deceitful and highly discredited so-called journalist who's made a profession of peddling hoaxes time and time again, to include the hoaxes of Russia, or the fine people on both sides hoax, or suckers and losers hoax. So this is the guy that peddles in garbage. This is what he does.
Why were those details shared on Signal, and how did you learn that a journalist was privy to the targets, the types of weapons used?
I've heard I was characterized. Nobody was texting war plans, and that's all I have to say about that.
No, that's a lie. He was texting war plans. He was texting attack plans. When targets were going to be targeted, how they were going to be targeted, who was at the targets, when the next sequence of attacks were happening.
The way that Hegseth stares into the camera insisting that he wasn't texting war plans, yeah, very convincing. Not! It's giving serious drunk guy at a wedding trying to explain why he's not that drunk energy. But should anyone really be that surprised? I mean, we're talking about Pete Hegseth here. Not only is this a guy with a well-documented drinking problem and also reportedly sexually assaulted a woman in 2017, but he was a co-host on Fox and Friends Weekend before this. Not the weekday Fox and Friends, the Sunday clearance rack version. This is who Trump made Secretary of Defense. This is the person overseeing military strikes, a guy who couldn't even make it through a day of work at Fox News without drinking. We told people that something like this would happen. I mean, just 3 days prior to the Atlantic's bombshell report, Paul Rieckhoff warned us that we should all be concerned with Trump's leadership crew in and around the Pentagon.
Special government employee, he might have some sort of interest in it. I don't know.
The point is that it's not clear and it's constantly chaotic, and if at best
it's an anonymous source.
At best it's clumsy and sloppy. And they're not on the same page.
The reporting is clumsy and sloppy.
Let's use another example. They erased Jackie Robinson from the Department of Defense and the Tuskegee Airmen and any number of other people who are heroic people who've served our country. They said maybe it was a mistake. The Pentagon is not a place where we can make mistakes. It's not a place with a margin of error. If they're making mistakes in that area, what are they doing in Syria? What are they doing around security clearances? What are they doing in other areas? The issue we most need to be concerned about is sloppiness and incompetence. And when people are not on the same page in our national government around national security, our enemies are celebrating.
And on that very same day, Hegseth said this.
Under the previous administration, we looked like fools. Not anymore. President Trump has reestablished American leadership. The F-47 is part of it. And Mr. President, thank you for having the courage to do it and leading the way for all our warfighters.
Well, that aged like milk.
By the way, I don't know everything about how Pete Hegseth's computers work, but I know this. In my experience, both in the cabinet and as an intelligence officer, you would have to go out of your way to take classified information and move it into an unclassified system. I don't know if a lot of folks understand how this works, but it's not like there's a computer where you might get an unclassified email and a classified email in the same inbox. They're not even the same computers. By design, it is very difficult for information to move from one system to the other unless somebody goes out of their way to do that. And, you know, I don't want to speculate on how the FBI will respond to this or how Congress will respond to this, but I know that it was drilled into us back when I was an intelligence officer that if you ever took top secret information, moved it over to an unclassified system and disclosed it, that would be a crime. I mean, I can't tell you how much this was drilled into us when I was in the military.
And you want to know how I know that Hegseth knows better? Well, because he said so back in 2016.
Apparently, the standard operating procedure inside the Clinton Secretary of State office was to send emails that couldn't otherwise be printed to the maid to print them out of a secure area or from a secure area and then hand them off. Any security professional, military, government or otherwise, would be fired on the spot for this type of conduct and criminally prosecuted for being so reckless with this kind of information. The fact that she wouldn't be held accountable for this, I think, blows the mind of anyone who's held our nation's secrets dear, who's had a top secret clearance like I have and others, who know that even one hiccup causes a problem, let alone a standard procedure like this.
This is what happens when you fill your cabinet with TV personalities, right-wing influencers, and people who only got the job because they said something nice about Donald Trump on TV. Trump's national security team is so deeply unqualified, they think OPSEC is a testosterone supplement they saw on Joe Rogan. I could think of plenty of politicians who could use our next sponsor, especially the ones in this episode. I mean, some of these folks could really use a chill beverage. This podcast is sponsored by Sol. If you listen to this show, you have heard me rave about Sol's out-of-office gummies. Well, the team at Sol just launched their new out-of-office beverages that are perfectly microdosed with hemp-derived THC and CBD to give any situation that vacation vibe. Last night, I kicked back with Sol's new out-of-office THC beverage in raspberry lemonade. Pure summertime in a can. The out-of-office beverages not only come in two mouth-watering flavors, raspberry lemonade and cucumber melon lime. They also offer two different doses, 2.5 milligram THC and 5 milligram THC. Feel the freedom to choose with 6, 12, or 24 packs, so you can drink your THC in any way you like. You can crack one open after a hard day at work, wind down with your favorite TV show, or share a six-pack with friends at your next hangout. Whatever floats your boat. This year, I decided to ditch the whiskey hangover for a better vibe with Sol's out-of-office THC drinks, and I am a huge fan. Sol was founded 5 years ago by brother and sister duo Mike and Angie Lee. Mike is a former world-ranked professional boxer, and Angie is an author and professional speaker, who had the desire to create natural alternatives to medication that tackle problems they deal with themselves like sleeplessness, anxiety, focus, and pain. And that's not all Sol's got. Whether you're looking for a sleep aid, enhanced focus, or pain relief, Sol has all your wellness needs covered. Plus, all of Sol's products are grown right here in the USA, organically farmed and gluten-free. So if you want to feel your best, head to GetSol.com and use code GABE for 30% off your order. That's 30% off your order using code GABE. One last time, GetSol.com and use code GABE for 30% off. Also, can we just take a second to point out the absolute hypocrisy of all of this? The same party who screamed about Hillary Clinton's private email servers like it was Watergate on steroids suddenly has nothing to say when the actual Secretary of Defense is texting targeting coordinates like he's live tweeting a drone strike. And just in case you forgot how loud they were, here's what Trump's current cabinet had to say over the years.
If there was anyone other than Hillary Clinton, they would be in jail right now.
Nobody is above the law, not even Hillary Clinton, even though she thinks she is. Mishandling classified information is still a violation of the Espionage Act.
When you have the Clinton emails, on top of the fact that the sitting president of the United States admitted he had documents in his garage, they didn't prosecute, they didn't go after these folks.
Hillary Clinton responded tonight with this. You have got to be kidding me.
This is what projection looks like. They don't actually care about national security.
Donald Trump's ratings on handling the economy, inflation, cost of living are all tanking. And we're seeing this administration's incompetence and recklessness on a scale unimaginable. I'm sure you guys saw this incredible Jeffrey Goldberg piece from right before we got on air a couple years ago about Goldberg, who is a journalist at The Atlantic, being invited into a private Signal chat with all of our national security heads. So Rubio, Hegseth, Waltz, Tulsi Gabbard, Scott Bessent's in there, et cetera. And they are planning on just Signal to drop bombs in Yemen. So they're not doing this in a skiff. They're doing it on an app that you and I, we all have on our phones. And it's obviously incredibly reckless, national security risks. I don't want to ever hear butthurt emails again. I don't know what's going to happen to anyone who's involved in something like this. But on top of it, you have the vice president. He's in there as well, contradicting Donald Trump on his policy on Europe. So all of this is going on. We're only a couple months into this administration. And when Carville says, let's see what they do, you get stuff like this.
But just listen to how Trump sycophants are already trying to spin this.
Instead, they are obsessed with an accidentally leaked text, a chain from Trump cabinet officials who are debating the merits of military strikes in Yemen.
Did you ever try to start a group text? You're adding people and you accidentally add the wrong person. All of a sudden, your Aunt Mary knows all your raunchy plans for the bachelor party. Well, that kind of happened today with the Trump administration.
More feigned, phony outrage. This is now the scandal of the week that you will see nonstop, 24/7, that nobody will care about. Now, by the way, it's not only a smear, but it's waged by the left. That's all they've got, and their bingo cards.
Well, National Security Advisor Mike Waltz accidentally added a reporter to the group text, and not a good reporter. Jeffrey Goldberg from The Atlantic, one of the biggest hoax artists around. Well, he heard some things he probably shouldn't have, but could have been a wee bit of a security breach.
But the bigger takeaway for me is it's an insight, a transparent insight into the thought process and dialogue of our national leaders. If you look at the actual content of what was reported, if you look at how they discuss potential strikes on Houthis in Yemen, what you will see is dialogue between Vice President J.D. Vance, Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth, National Security Advisor Mike Waltz, Stephen Miller, Tulsi Gabbard, and many more in a very collaborative, open, honest, team-based attempt to come to the right decision after years of secrecy and incompetence. If you read the content of these messages, I think you'll come away proud that these are the leaders making these decisions in America.
Well, I thought what the Secretary of Defense just said, Laura, was an outstanding statement. And listen, I mean, we don't know how much of this is accurate or not, but it looks like even if everything the Atlantic reported is true, it's the president's advisors discussing among themselves options they might recommend to the president. And nobody can deny the success of what the president is doing here, which is what Pete Hegseth just underscored. And this is what the leftist media is reduced to. They can't argue with the policies, which the American people support. They can't argue with this new demonstration of American strength that is keeping Americans safe at home and abroad. And so now we're griping about who's on a text message and who's not. I mean, come on.
What you did see, though, I think, was top level officials doing their job, doing it well, and executing on a plan with precision. That mission was a success. No one was jeopardized because of it. We're grateful for that, but they will certainly, I'm sure, make sure that that doesn't happen.
Every single day, the Trump administration finds new ways to outdumb themselves, and now their latest embarrassing strategy is just to lie their way through it. Because apparently, when you accidentally text war plans to a journalist, the next logical step isn't accountability, it's gaslighting.
And there is nothing better. The Democrats, there's nothing that they're better at than spinning a sensationalist story out of a basic set of facts. And the president and our team have been incredibly transparent about what happened. No classified information was shared in this group chat. But the Democrats would have you believe we have a national security crisis on our hands when we absolutely do not. It's the same playbook they ran with the Russia hoax, which was a perfect phone call between the President Trump and President Zelensky at the time, which they spiraled into a hoax, and then an impeachment, which President Trump was later acquitted of, and that story was later debunked. They did this with the classified documents hoax when President Trump had the legal authority to retain those documents under the Presidential Records Act, and they had you believe that there was top secret information and it was a national security crisis. They are good at fear-mongering the American public, but not anymore. I think the Americans see the truth. They see past the sensationalist headlines from Jeffrey Goldberg in The Atlantic, which is a dying magazine, and they should trust this president and his national security team, who, again, are getting things done, moving at Trump speed to make this world a safer place.
Right. Because this isn't just incompetence, it's reckless, dangerous, and illegal, and they're betting that you'll forget this ever happened because the next scandal is already around the corner.
No one was texting war plans. Dan, it seems this was obviously a mistake. The guy was put on the chat. Your reaction and the threat here?
Yeah, look, it's a mistake and we got to move on. You know, if Secretary Hegseth says there was no classified information, I'll take him at his word until I see otherwise. The texts that were published in the paper, obviously it's not great. You don't want to be adding journalists to what is a sensitive conversation, but I didn't see anything that even came close to meeting the level of classified, but I also don't know. So if Mr. Hegseth is saying that, I'll take him at his word.
What Was That is fully independent and runs on your support. There's no team, no backing, just me cutting through the noise and calling out the bullshit. So if you value my work, become a paid subscriber today at whatwasthat.show. You'll get exclusive episodes, articles, and deep dive breakdowns you won't find anywhere else. That's whatwasthat.show. Go check it out and help keep this going. Prefer to listen while you're on the go? You can find What Was That on all your favorite podcast platforms. Apple, Spotify, you name it. Until next time, I'm Gabe Sanchez, and this has been What Was That?